Welcome to the Advanced Acrylic Painting class. Today we will be working on the Underpainting Monochromatic Still Life Study. Okay, we're going to talk about design, composition, thumbnails, balance, unity, highlights, shadows, warm and cool colors. Okay, so let's get our supplies together and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, this is the supplies you will need for this project. You definitely need your canvas paper. You need your pencil. You need your paper that we're going to do to map out our thumbnails and composition on. If you have a ruler, that would be great. If you don't, you could use a straight edge off of any item that has a straight edge like this to make your lines here. Okay, and then of course you need your paints. Okay, and then we need our flat brush, the biggest one you have, and also your round liner brush here. Your palette and some water. Okay, so we're gonna start with our thumbnails. We're gonna create a still life, so we're gonna be observing objects that I put together over here, and then we're going to create the still life based off of what we see. I'm going to go into details as far as what we're going to be looking for, looking at these objects here. But get your supplies together and we will move along, and I will be going step by step with you guys. Okay, so you got all your supplies. We're gonna start with mapping out our canvas paper. All I want you to do is draw a rectangle in a landscape format. Landscape, you know, this is a portrait presentation. We want a landscape one. So not this, but this presentation here. Okay. Once you map that out, you can use a straight edge or you can map it out freehand. We're gonna start with our thumbnails. We're gonna at least sketch out 4 thumbnails before we go to our canvas paper, okay? So I want you to get a piece of paper, sketch paper, your pencil, draw out 4 rectangles, landscape presentation, and we're gonna start observing what I have displayed here for you, okay? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so our first step, I want you to have your thumbnails mapped out for our sketches. So we're gonna think composition. So as we're looking at this still life, we wanna capture what we're looking at. We wanna box it in with the diameters that we just made here, which diameters meaning the lines inside the presentation, okay? So we're thinking composition. So I want you to start sketching out what you see here. And I'll put a still picture there so you could observe what the video shows. So I'm gonna start now. Try to fit your elements in there, like your rows should be somewhere near the top. You know, your instrument could, you know, be the foreground. This could be in the background like it is, like how I'm seeing it. You could block it in with shapes. You don't have to define it much. It should only take you a couple, like a minute for each one. You're not worried about detail, you're worried about shape. You're worried about the design of the whole. So I'm gonna do another one real quick. There's two for you already. Okay, so just keep sketching it out. Think about shape, placement, composition. Okay, one more time for you. You're filling it out too. Nothing is definite. You're just kind of getting your placement for these items to work within your presentation. Four different thumbnails, map it out. It don't have to be perfect and it don't have to look exactly the same if you don't want to, but you want to observe and you want to mimic it the best way you can. Okay, so that's your thumbnails. Once again, so it looks similar to this rough sketch. Okay, and we'll move on to the next. Okay, so once you have your thumbnails, you're gonna pick one out of the four that you like the best as far as composition and design. You design this thumbnail for it to go transfer onto your canvas paper. Rough sketch, not perfect, but you got your elements inside, your lines pretty much. That means you designed this here. You decided where the elements are gonna go. So now we're gonna look at our objects even deeper. We're gonna look at it and see where the light is hitting these objects. That's gonna be your highlights. So we wanna map out our highlights. Anywhere on the objects that you see the lightest color or lightest points, you want to note that highlight, because we're going to break this image or these images or items down into highlights and shadows. That gives us our painting, which is also called monochromatic painting. Okay, so we're gonna identify the highlights. That's gonna be our warm colors. So this light is hitting this glass here, is creating a highlight in my view. That's the first highlight I see right off the bat. I see a highlight in the leaf here. I see highlights all in the rows on this side. And when I look over here, I see all shadow, you know. So what I would do, shape, I'm thinking shape, simple. I'll take this whole part of my rose that I drew, map it in, shadow. Over here to my rose, highlight. See that? It's blocky right now, but it you know, we're mapping out our painting. Okay, so once you identify, this will be a shadow behind your instrument there. So I note that. Okay, so we want to note our highlights and shadows wherever we see them, and then we're going to move on. Okay. And then we'll pause there. Okay, so all right, monochromatic painting, underpainting. So we're going to take our blue, okay, and I don't know if you remember the scale we did in a prior project, but we mapped out, we added blue with a little bit of black, and then we started a scale with blue, and then we added white to it to make it almost like a pale blue. So that's our that was our scale there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with our blue and black, and we're gonna map out where the shadows are, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna get your blue open, use your flat brush, your big brush, and we're just gonna map out the shadow areas. We're gonna take blue and we're gonna add a little bit of black. And this is for our underpainting. We're gonna map the painting out roughly. Just be careful opening and closing your containers. Okay, so I already know this is gonna be my darkest area here, so I'm gonna just come across. Add a little bit of black to your blue. I'm gonna just fill this area in because I know it's all shadow based on my sketch and based on my point of view of this still life here. Start mapping it out like that. Cleaning my brush off because I got blue and black mixed together. And my next step, of course there's more dark and shadow areas, but I'm moving along to show you how it becomes monochromatic. So now I got pure blue right out of the container, and now I'm saying this would be my middle tone, if you will. So I got the darkest tone, and then I'm gonna use my blue to make middle tones. So I'm gonna block that in now. I would advise you to dip your brush in the paint, put it on your palette here, add some water to it so you could kind of wash over the areas pretty quickly, just to map it out. That's all you're doing right now, mapping it out, getting the tone in there so you could kind of see the dynamics of, you know, middle dark tone. And now we're gonna identify, so we're gonna identify the highlights soon, but we're mapping out, you know, your different tones and shades right now. So now we want to get some white white is gonna be your highlights, okay? So gonna open the white up, wash your brush off. And we're just gonna put some different highlighted areas. We're gonna say that's a highlight there. We're gonna say along the edge of this will be a highlight. That'll be a highlight. All this is more, the light is over here, so all this, wherever this light is hitting on these objects will be your lightest points of the whole painting. So we already know all this will be lighter. Just note it there. You could even just block it in like that. Don't worry about the details right now. We build up the details as we add on more information. This is all about observation right now and mapping it out, so of course whatever you see you could note down here, but this is a study. It's not necessarily a rendering, it's a study. So you want to really observe what you're looking at. It's better in person, but what I'm going to do is provide a still life for you guys. No, not a still life, a still picture so you could just look at the picture and kind of mimic it that way. Okay, but just map it out like that, and I'd like to see what you come up with. A rough still life study. This is not a rendering. It's not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to identify your shadows, your highlights, your middle tones, all with one scale. What I mean by one scale is referring back to our last exercise where we took the blue, added a little bit of black for our first square, and then we washed our brush out, and then we added blue to the second square, and then we added white to continue the scale all the way down to pure white. Okay, so that's the exercise. I want you to exercise your knowledge based on what we went over prior to this project. Monochromatic scale painting, still life study, shape, form, shadow, tone. But we will be having a discussion Friday evening. I will be notifying you guys with a link, and we will be discussing how to move forward with your study and get it to a presentable presentation. Thank you for your time.